Hello, legends. I hope this finds you utterly phenomenal. My guest today, boy, are you going to love this conversation. We're going to be talking about all the stuff that a lot of people, particularly in the veterans community, don't want to talk about because they're still marching up and down the square and living in a military identity. And we haven't yet made that tie between why do veterans suffer a mental health crisis and issues like identity. So we're going to be talking about that, the morality of war, a whole bunch of other stuff. So I've said enough. Let's get into it. Dr. Tam, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Yes, I'm phenomenal. As I said earlier, I've really been looking forward to this chat. Uh, we were chatting earlier, weren't we? What do I call you? You Tam is Tam is obviously a Scottish military nickname. What does it? Where does it come from?
It's Tom. Tom, same as Tom. It's
Uh,
just the little on the accent. So like Robbie is Rabbi or Rob is Rab. Tom is Tam. It's just very simple.
got ya. Nothing to do with it. Is it the Tam O'Shanter? Have I said that right?
Thomas Shant, oh, yeah, it's the headdress, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's just a variation of Thomas.
Is that Tam O'Shanter unique to Scottish units?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Although some Canadian units used to wear it, but I'm not sure if they still do that if they've not been disbanded or not. But certainly those of Scottish heritage did.
So, Tam, you approached me. I can't remember. I think you sent me an email about something, did you not? And I just thought, blimey, this guy, this guy's interesting.
Yeah, that was it. I just, off the cuff, um, I'm developing some training programs, and I'm developing a kind of philosophy about dealing with post-traumatic stress. And I've been watching you for years and watching you grow. And of course, impressed as always. But you know, apart from scale, I find, yeah, I find the
13 and a half
similarity.
inches now, folks.
I'm a little bit behind you, pal, but I'll catch up. Yeah, you can always grow muscle. It's right up to you in your 90s. Yeah, so as I was saying, it's post-traumatic stress. I don't call it a disorder because disorder is a medical term given to a series of patterns of behavior and language that's used in order to define something like what they would call a disorder, something that you've got. So post-traumatic stress, Chris, at the end of the day, is a choice. And I know this is going to be hard on a lot of viewers, but basically it comes down to a choice of behavior, of because of your thinking. So what I do is I approach the whole issue from the person. PTS is as individual as fingerprints. There is no two PTS. You cannot have two incidents the same. You and I could have witnessed the same incident and walked away with um, a different feeling about it because we have different beliefs, different values, different culture, different attitude. So that comes back to the human mind. The human mind is as individual. Every brain is basically the same. It's like a car. You can drive a car, but it won't move anywhere until you actually set the direction you want to go. So if you think of your brain as a functional organ, it's your mind that's the driver. So you can't change your brain. It has to stay in the same place, but you can change your mind. We do that all the time. So what I do is I look at post-traumatic stress as what happened to me. It was a limiting belief, a set of limiting beliefs that was responsible for this behavior. Because I believed it, I behave it. I show it. And of course, you've got other people around about you all looking at you. So for your audience, I'd like to just use one little story that happened to me to put it all into perspective. It was around about Christmas in the mid 90s. I know because my kids were growing up. and you go buy kids Christmas presents, being a little bit estranged from them, it's special. And I was in one of my modes, as you can well appreciate, and a lot of your audience will do. I was off on one. In, out, pick up. So in, pick up the presents and out. I knew exactly where I was going. I knew exactly where they were. It had been scouted. So the day arrived, I get off the bus, I go into the shopping centre, and it is poaching. It's mobbed. Can't move. People everywhere. But I've got to go because I've made the time and I've made the decision. And I've got the money in my pocket because I was unemployed. Not unusual. So I come to the escalator, and right in front of me, Chris, this old couple converged. And they spent 20 seconds something moving shopping bags between each other. And I'm behind them, this raging bull. Come on, get out my way. Ready to put my hands and push them. Not going to. But, that feeling, that thought. And we start moving up the escalator. And all of a sudden, they kissed each other in front of me. Just in front of me. And here's this raging thing behind them. They didn't even know I was there. And it was that kiss. It just made me realize I've got nobody to kiss. Sure, I've got my kids. I love them. They love me. But I've got nobody in my life. I'm empty. Shit. And then I looked down, and all these people walking up and down. Nobody knew I was there. And this isn't happening, Chris. The Epiphany. It's happening inside my head, not out there in the world. This is all happening in here. And if it's happening in here, I can deal with it. And from that moment on, I healed. I won't say healed. Yesterday, I had one on the bus, never mind. But no, I was able to consolidate all my issues into one issue, which was it's inside my head. I have to deal with it. And this started me on a journey to find out. I mean, after the Falklands, I'd been through religion, I'd been through philosophy, trying to find, I'd even gotten people to try and find my mates to talk to them. I was that desperate to get answers. And I realized, nobody's going to give me any answers. I've got to find out. So that's basically what kick-started my academic career. I already had an MBA. That was just an incidental, but that's the point when I wanted to do my PhD.
You said you had no one to kiss. I thought you paras kissed each other.
We did. Yeah, that's after we left the Marines in bed waiting, wanting more.
Left the Marines in.
But have I come back?
Left the Marines getting their dresses on and their makeup. So, yes,
different makeup though.
There's so much I want to get into here, Tam. But first of all, for our friends at home, please don't think this is a military chat and switch off. I would say, I don't know if the good doctor agrees with me, but I would say everybody has trauma. It's just due to the nature of the sickness of the society that we've allowed to develop. And I think this chat is going to surprise you as to the origins of most people's trauma. Before we get into that, though, Tam, you're a Falklands veteran. Could you want to just give us a quick rundown on your background?
Okay, 1976, I left Edinburgh. I was in trouble with gangs. They were chasing me all over the place. I was claimed as in I'm going to get stabbed, and it would have happened. So I did a bunk, ended up in Leicester, dead-end job, hated it. Went for a look and see with the territorial battalion. They were Royal Corps Transport and a medical unit. Met some paras, 16 independent para company who were part-time TA as well. The swagger, the way these guys walked, their attitude, the look at me, wow, I want to be one of them. And so started this journey. Fast forward 3 months, I find myself depot para, 435 platoon. Passed out first time, straight out to Berlin, 2 years in Berlin. Absolutely brilliant posting if you like to party, drink, but rubbish if you like to soldier. So it wasn't a soldiering posting. It was more, they said it was some kind of reward for our service in Northern Ireland. Why send parachute battalions to Berlin where you need to be like guardsmen? Big mistake. Caused trouble and mayhem everywhere, as you guys would have. So the thing is, after that, it was a complete flip, 180, right into soldiering. We went to Ballykinler for 2 years. That took us down onto the TAR, South Armagh, County Down, and around our own area in around Ballykinler. So that went off okay for about 5 weeks. And then Sunday afternoon, lying on my bed, waiting, getting ready to go. One platoon sergeant comes in and says to me, "You're coming over to my platoon." My sergeant had said I could have me, senior soldier, short of NCOs. Can't argue about it. Next day, I'm sitting in a house in County Down with a friend, and we're waiting to go back to Ballykinler to our barracks. And this girl's father runs up the stairs, banging on the door, screaming, boys, you got to get down here. You got to get down here." Ran downstairs. And the first thing was Mountbatten. It was on the telly. They'd blown up Mountbatten. And so what's all the panic? And then they switched, and that was it. Oh, my God, Chris. Oh, my God. You know that they talk about the ground opening up and you're falling through? That's what happened. I knew as soon as they said that there was casualties down an incident on the border, I knew straight away it was two para. The worst of it is, when I got down there in the night, when we flew down there in the night, I realized that the guy that replaced me got killed. That did my head in. But the worst of it was, the history tells it was messy. Okay, I don't want to go into it. I don't want to disturb your audience. But I went outside for a cigarette, shaking, and it was dark. Neon lights shining right from the street into the fort. I'm smoking a cigarette and I'm just watching smoke curling up and thinking, my God, my God, my God, I know who's dead. My best mates got away with it. They didn't get killed. But, it was kind of like rolling the dice down to who you know and how much it mattered. Till there was guys at the end who were Queensland Southern Highlanders who didn't matter any to me. So it was a kind of sliding scale. And I was just pondering this. Is this right to feel like this? One person over another? And I looked down, neon lights, a little glint. And I looked down again, got my lighter out, lit it up. Chris, it was a trickle of blood coming out of stacked plastic bags, sitting against the shed. That was my mates. That was his soldiers in bits, in plastic bags. What an ignominious end to paratroopers, to emperors.
Tam,
So that's what triggered me. Sorry.
For our friends at home, we're talking about Warren Point. And,
yeah.
And it was a secondary device, was it not?
There was the first one that stopped the convoy, and that's where the lads got burned. The second one was where the Queensland Southern Highlanders CEO got evaporated. That was built into the pillars at the gates of the lodge. And then there was machine gun fire from across the water, across I think it's Strangford Lough. There was machine gun fire that were pinning them down initially. Some of the lads returned fire, and then the IRA bugged out. But yeah, that's what it was. There was three incidents which took casualties.
Now, just to get straight to the point, one thing that I find it niggles me a bit, and this is the notion that you can only get PTS, what people call PTSD, but what we know is not a disorder, that you can only get post-traumatic stress if you've been in the military and you served on the front line and you've been involved in some heavy stuff.
Absolute rubbish, Chris. True, but rubbish. I got a sister suffering PTSD because she got divorced. It's the same thing. It's a choice of behavior, a choice of thinking. You set up a series of limiting beliefs about yourself, about the world, and then because mind and body are one, you aspire to it and you start living it. And it's only when other people start around about you, start telling you, hey, wait a minute, no, and you start losing your friends and all that. Maybe some people work it out, but a lot of people don't because it's so subtle. It's all happening in your unconscious. As I said, you're consciously not aware of it, except when you think about it, but it's there driving your behavior. And I can explain that, how that happens. It's pretty technical, but I can make it pretty easy. So let's take post-traumatic stress can be a slow fuse, like a divorce. And then the point of realization, it's over. Yeah, the hurt, the panic, and the withdrawal, etc. Exactly the same as seeing a road traffic accident. Exactly the same, as injuring yourself when you fall. It's the moment your mind goes, bosh, and this is the seat of your stress. So I'd like to move aside a wee bit and tell a little story. It's fiction, but basically it makes sense. A long time ago, a man was walking through the forest, had a pack on his back, and he stopped. This is like Telegraph Road, for those of you who know the words. Like Telegraph Road, he stops, puts his pack down, and decides he's going to homestead. And then gradually, other people start coming along. And, he starts building a small little town. They run out of water. So this guy goes off trekking through the forest, miles and miles and miles, and he finds this massive waterfall, absolutely huge. Oh, this is awesome. We got to move here. Yeah, that all goes all the way back. So he's made a trail through the forest, hasn't he? And he's got to follow it back. So he's got to remember little points as he's navigating, as we do. No maps in this time. So he gets back to his little collective and says, right, we got this. So they all follow him. And as they follow him, they're making a bigger path. And they get there to this waterfall and they're, wow, this is amazing. And so they go back and they start telling everybody they know about this waterfall. And everybody they know comes to this village and then they go through. And this path gets bigger. And eventually it spreads wider and the use of newspapers and telegraph comes in. And the path gets bigger and wider so it can take horses and carts and then eventually motor transport. And all of a sudden this path becomes a highway. And then it becomes a motorway. And then it becomes a super highway. And and the waterfall is Niagara Falls. So it started with somebody walking through the forest and discovering this. And now it's a massive highway. This is how you create your behavioral patterns. This is how you create your thinking. You create highways in your mind. Now, the technical people call them neural networks. But if you think of them in highways, the metaphor jumps over easy. You can close a highway. You can reroute around the highway. And there's the key. Because if you make the choice to close it and you make the choice to go past it, that highway can be shut down. And you will not be thinking the way you were before. You will not be going back to the seat of your pain, your hurt, your anger, your frustration. You'll be able to move beyond it. Now, how do I know this? I did it, Chris. These old people, they did me a favor. Some people say, Jesus sent them to you. Fair enough. You can have that. Yeah. Or God sent them to you. Or, oh, that was entirely fated to happen. I don't care which either way. I'm there. That happened. I had that epiphany. I went and did my research. And after years, and discovered that we create pathways, highways in our mind. Now, the other side of this, the corollary to that is everybody's got a brain. They're all the same model. Yeah. They're all filled with different stuff. That's your mind. But your brain's a different, your brain has got the processing power to do this. Now, ironically, the brain is very lazy. Oh, it's so lazy. It doesn't want to be overworked. Think about it. You're walking down the street. Are you thinking left foot, right foot, left foot? Got to breathe, make my heart beat? No, that's all happening in the unconscious. That's your brain running this. Your unconscious is running your body. As I said, car, driver. And you can buy a new car, but you're still the same driver. So every time you go to treatment, some of these people, yeah, they give you a new car, but you're still the same driver. You're still the same habits, beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors. So, okay, so the point I really want to make is the fact that your mind is lazy, your brain is lazy. And as I said, it will take the easiest route. So it forms highways to behavior. So this is what all your habits are and all your preferences. If you like milk in your coffee, or if you like milk in your tea, or you don't, that's a preference, a choice. It's a highway in your mind. You don't have to think about it. You automatically do it. So what your brain does is it runs your life for you, but your mind gives it direction. So if you've got a stress in there, it will start to appear. And if you're using it all the time, it will start to grow, just like the path becomes a track, becomes a lane, becomes a road, becomes a motorway. Exactly the same, the more you use it. So when your brain is in downtime, i.e., you're resting, where do you think it's going to go? It's not going to climb the mountain. It's going to run downhill to the easiest place because that's its default position. So you're thinking all the time, oh, this happened to me. Yeah, sure. But you can stop that. And that's what I call my choice method. Now, it's quite a complicated process to go through because it involves a lot of work, not physical work, mental work. Because just as you have created a highway in your mind, it takes time to dismantle it. Some people, and I've seen this straight away, they get it. But other people have to work at it. Now, the other side of it is it's like anything. In the army, they show you how to do something and you watch, and then they'll give you a little story about it, and then they'll tell you, and then you practice, don't you? And then you might get it right or you might get it wrong, but you practice. And you're a Royal Marine, so you fucking practice and you practice and you practice and you practice and you practice, don't you?
Used to,
And what you're
yes.
doing, yes, you're creating a highway in your mind to that skill, to that knowledge, whether it's map reading, loading a weapon, firing an artillery piece, working with mortars, helicopter drills. These are practiced. This is what separates us from a lot of normal army. Practice, practice, practice. What the army does is it creates highways in your mind to the skills that you need so that they're there automatic on demand. And by God, did that come out in the Falklands? I didn't know at the time. I was just as naive as everybody. But doing this research, wow. Now I know that's automatic behavior. Oh, the guy got a medal for it. See, I found out courage is a perception. I never felt courage. I was never near enough to be courageous. But other people told me I was. I wasn't. I'm shitting myself, terrified. So there's the point. It's put into you in the army and you're trained to react in a certain way so it becomes automatic. Well, that's what the same as your post-traumatic stress. You've trained your mind to let your brain go to its least point of resistance, its default position. And when you get there, what happens? Emotional overload, surcharge, other highways, the routes that connect into this main highway start kicking off, whether it's anger, frustration, uh, jealousy, rage, whatever. These are all emotions attached to your highway. And you can literally go down picking off these emotions one by the choice method. I choose not to be angry. And well, that's easy, Tom, Ken, because you're a scientist and all that, huh? But me, I've got to live my life, and I'm terrified about what happened in the past, and I can't stop thinking about it. So, how is it a choice? They think it's a disorder because they've been told it's a disorder, and they believe it's a disorder, and I can prove it's not a disorder, and it has to go back. Um, I don't want to get too technical, but this is university research that I did. But if anyone's interested, you want to read Foucault and his archaeology. What he did is he went back and he looked at how psychiatry came about. And this is very interesting, Chris. This will tickle you. He started going back into the 1700s and all that. And what happened was he started to find out that these eminent scientists in the Enlightenment period were all experimenting. This is when they were cutting out people's parts out of people's brains and shock treatment and all that. Well, what they had noticed, which is true, is that people that had this disorder stuff had a set pattern of behaviors. Oh, wait a minute, that's highways in your mind. Of course. But they didn't know that. They just saw the behaviors. And so they would try and treat it. Now, they come up with a language because they are educated. This is called a discourse. So they have the discourse of psychiatry. In the discourse of psychiatry, it looks at all the patterns of behavior and beliefs and narratives that come from these people that are obviously not functioning normally, and they lump them into an area which they call a condition. Oh, yeah, that's right. Chris, as far as I know, there has not been one single clinical test for any psychiatric disorder ever. They can't do it because they're all as individual as your fingerprints. No two psychos are the same. No two schizos are the same. So all they do is they look in their book of 1,000 odd disorders. That's how far we've got. That's it. That's what they're suffering from. Here's your remedy. And Mr. or Miss PTSD victim, self victim, but I call them, yeah, Mr. or Mrs. PTSD victim goes out and they think they got the cure. No, it's not a cure. All you're doing is you're numbing down the brain so it doesn't actively go to the points of default. It's not clearing the highway. It's just cluttering it up. It is still there. The minute you come off these pills, powders, potions, and so on, boom, you're gone. And the other thing that gets right up my nose, a lot of them are guessing. They've never been there. I would listen to somebody like me. I'd listen to a Tom and Two Para who'd lost everything. I'd listen to him more than I'd listen to these people because that's real. I'm learning from that. I'm not looking in a book and ascribing that to somebody and giving them potions and going away. And this is why people suffer. And again, every time you go to these people, you end up extending the highway, making it bigger, faster, longer, stronger, better, because you're not dealing with the real issue. Now, enter Dr. William Thomas Thornborrow. I love that one. Huh? Enter William Dr. Thomas Thornborrow. I come up with this at university to all these psychologists in the psychology department, and they look at me as if I've just walked in naked. Huh? They won't take it. Why? Well, they've highways in their mind to their education, to their years in college, to their years of practice, to their years of observation. But it's all subjective observation. None of it is objective. There is no test. Oh, you've got 0.10 PTSD. You've got 0.9. Oh, motor accident. You've got 15. That's real bad. Here, have these pills. Now you'll feel okay and you'll be okay and you'll get on normal. How can you be normal when you're monged out, Chris? Spending all that time monged out, happy pills, feeling great. You're covering it up like a plaster. You're just covering it up, not curing it. Now, I admit you cannot cure it. Once you've got it, you can't get rid of it. It will always, always be there. But as I said earlier, if you understand what the choice method is, you can put a roadblock on there and block it off. And it's as simple as that. However, the hard work comes after. You make that decision. You get rid of your limiting beliefs. You no longer believe that you are a victim of post-traumatic stress. You are in charge. You can control this and tame the beast, lock it away. Not always, please, trust me. I've had moments. Yeah, I've had moments since, but they're very mild compared to what I used to do. Standing in a bar, drunk, looking around. Who am I going to fight? That's Raj behavior. And I think it's normal. So I dealt with that. Right. As anybody of your audience, you're listening, you'll understand where I'm coming from. Anybody learn to play a musical instrument? Put your hand up now. Well, I can't see you, but yeah, put your hand up. Yeah, you can play a musical instrument.
My audience can't even read, Doctor.
Oh, come on. You've got a fantastic audience. They're all interested in a man who's had a fantastic life. And again, as I said to you when I first contacted you, you're blessed, man, to be able to turn around from where you were to do that. Oh, awesome. You deserve the VC. Anyway, apart from shining a light up your ass, back to what I was saying. Okay, so learning to play a musical instrument involves a series of steps. And this is the same as everything. If you want to play football, you want to fire a rifle, you want to ride a horse, you want to fly a plane, you want to run consecutive marathons from Land's End to John O'Groats. Yeah, you got to practice. So, okay, so this might be a useful test for some of your audience. If this isn't live and it's recorded and you're watching it recorded, switch off, go away, get yourself pencil, a pen, or get your phone out. And I want you to type these 4 things in or write these 4 things. Unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, unconscious competence. These are the 4 stages of the learning cycle. You start unconscious incompetence. You don't know that you don't know. You've never done it before. So think of something that you've never done before. You've never played badminton, or you've never driven a racing car, or anything that involves a skill. And it applies to your mind as well, like learning languages as well. But I just want to concentrate on the skill so people understand. So you go through a phase where all of a sudden you try it. Oh, I can't do this. That's negative language, better saying, I can't do this yet. So, I can't do this. And that's it. You go away, forget, because you move from unconscious to conscious incompetence. I'm no good at this. But you see, the point here, Chris, is you've got to make a decision at this point where you realize what's involved. And many people will step backwards. They'll say, no, it's too much time involved, too much effort, too much of a resource. You need money and so on. They'll come up with either an excuse or a justification for not continuing. And that's it, it'll get binned. But if somebody needs to do it for a purpose, like a skill for work or a hobby or pleasure, it can be anything. You need to practice. And this is the point where I'm getting with highways in your mind. The minute you pick up, now I did it with a ukulele. I did this in front of students over 3 years. I picked up a ukulele. I couldn't play a note. And 3 years later, I was able to play it because I made a decision that there was utility in it. I wanted to do this. I had a purpose. I created a highway by practicing. Now, it takes 42 days to form habits. Honestly, 42 days. Go back and think about that pandemic. 42 days, all these lockdowns. Now, I digress. So it takes you about 42 days to form a habit. So you've got to go at it. Now, the law of diminishing returns. Yeah, you've experienced this as a runner. Yeah, 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles, 10 miles, and all of a sudden you get to what you think is your maximum. You went beyond, fair enough, but most people will get to the maximum. I can run 5 miles. I can do 10. It's all right, fine. But you've practiced, haven't you? Because nobody gets up and runs 10 miles without practice. Nobody jumps in an Olympic swimming pool and swims 100 meters without practice. You have to practice, practice, practice. And this, every time you pick up to practice, you're changing your beliefs from limiting beliefs about it to positive beliefs. These positive beliefs take into your unconscious and they become filters and drive your thinking and behavior. In other words, they're repaving the highways, if you want to look at it that way, or better still, closing them down. So the more you practice, the better you become, till there comes a point where you don't really get any better. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you then move into a stage of conscious competence. I can do this. So with my ukulele, ding 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 ding, and I don't sing. Not got over that one yet. But I can play the ukulele. From whereas before I couldn't. I can pick it up anybody's ukulele and play it. That's a highway in my mind to the skill that I learned because I decided to go past unconscious competence into conscious incompetence and deal with it. This is the crux. So I dealt with it and I practiced and I practiced. Now, I'm nowhere near unconscious competence. The final stage, well, there's mastery after that. But the final stage of the cycle is you don't have to do it. You don't have to think about doing it. That's why you can cross the road without telling your legs to go left, right. I might turn this way. Yeah. And so on. So you create highways in your mind. The highways in your mind become default positions. Your brain is lazy. It will default to them. And if you've got trauma in there that you're not addressing, and believe me, I've seen it, people virtue signal. They virtue signal. Oh, you don't understand what I've been through. Chris, on that escalator with these old people in front of me, I realized nobody, can I say the F word? Yeah, nobody gives a fuck about your service. Nobody gives a fuck about what you've been through except your own family and those that love you. And they give a fuck because they love you and care, but they don't understand what you've been through. And it's difficult to communicate. And for them, they start growing highways in their mind. Yeah, they move from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence to conscious competence, and that conscious competence is a reaction to your behavior, thought patterns, and everything. So if you're leaping outside when everything goes bang and hiding in a tent for 3 days, then go back to your wife, oh fuck, that was a rough one. You're just as guilty of giving her a hard time. You're just as guilty as creating highways in her mind to the seat of your problem. So it's not just you. If you have children, if you love people and really love them, think about it. You can close this highway down, Chris. You get 90. They make up statistics all over the place. I just made that up. Fuck it. You can get 100% of your life back -1. You'll never get 100% back. But you can create new highways in your mind to positive resources. This is what you did. This is the pattern you went through. Nobody didn't recognize it, but it just felt right. And as you've gone through these past, 15 years or something like that? I know it's the last 6 or 7. The things that you've learned, these start becoming little bits that are floating around in your unconscious. And your brain goes, don't like these wee bits taking up electricity here. I'll put them all in the same place. And this becomes a repository of knowledge. And this is why you have a lot of knowledge about one thing, can switch to another thing, because all of them are at the end of these little highways to the seat of the knowledge, where the mind, where your brain, your lazy brain, likes to lump all the similar memories together. And that is it. That's the big picture. Now, as I said, the hard part is if you want to deal with your post-traumatic stress, no matter whether you're 11-year-olds or 9-year-old, no matter what your stress is, whether it's from combat or whether it's from an accident or whether it's from an emotional fallout or whether it's witnessing something, the same principle arrives. We all have the same brain. Our mind is the driver. We all have a different mind that is individual as fingerprints. Any stress, any thinking patterns, habits that you have are run by highways in your mind. Your brain is lazy. It will go and default to these. So what you have to do is put up a barrier, block it, or make a decision. Choose to close down these limiting beliefs to the seat of your pain, anger, hurt, frustration, whatever. Get on with your life and show those around about you that you love, that they love you, that you're still worth it. And I will tell you, you will get a reward. I'm nearly crying. You will get a reward that's far, far better than any pill, potion, powder, word, narrative from any scientist, any psychiatrist, and any psychologist. Maybe that's a bit steep, but you get my point. These people can give you advice. These people can give you temporary relief. You take that 42 days, you're in a freaking habit. You're in a chemical habit if they're giving you happy pills. You get me?
Absolutely.
And you know about that. You know about how hard it is to break a habit because it's not just highways. There's body, mind and body are one. It's saying, I want. And the prefrontal cortex is going, yeah. It's searching. And that becomes the focus. So that addiction becomes a massive highway in the mind that everything else, it's so big, it's taking up so much traffic in your mind. You see these people train spotting. Yeah, remember that film? I'm sitting watching that the second time because I watched it when it came out. And I see it, the behaviour, because I'm from Leith. That's my community. And I see it on these smackheads, thieving, running around. Everything is about getting money to get the smack. Do it like you. Sorry, Chris, yeah. If you recognize it, fucking huge highway in your mind that's controlling your life. Now, many of the rehabilitation, what do they do? Sure, unconscious incompetence. You don't know you've got the habit till you go there and you find out you got the habit. Then the conscious competence comes in, doesn't it? You got to make a belief. You got to make a decision. You got to believe in them, believe in yourself, and all that. And that's great while you're in this institution, and you can be in there for your 42 days and get your great habits. Make you step outside, bang, back into the community, bang. What are you? Highways in your mind to your culture, your lifestyle, your behavior, your friends, everything. And how long is it before you slip back into it? There's the danger. Now, psychologists know that. They've been using this many times, yeah? Put you through the rehab, remove you from the environment because it stimulates that. But they don't talk about highways or neural networks in your mind. They don't talk about the neural networks that you've built up with your friends since you were 2, 3 years old all the way through school. They don't concentrate on that. They just look at you and say, you've got this, have this, without really going into it. Now, I'm not alone. I didn't learn this myself. A lot of what I'm drawing on, I'm going to be honest, and a lot of people freak out at this, is neurolinguistics. I don't agree with the programming bit. I've been on so many of these programs in my search for what was wrong with me. Remember, I want to find out why I've got this highway. When I went on these programs, what I found was there's some of them were good, but the vast majority of them were just after your money. And you had these people sitting there getting taught all of this stuff about, you can reframe and you can do all this and yeah, I can clear your mind and all that. See them 2 or 3 weeks later and ask them about it. Not a fucking Scooby, not a clue. They've paid £3,000. They've got some good words, seen some good ideas working. Why? Why does it not work? Because they didn't move from their unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence and deal with it at that point where you have to make the decision. And what's a decision? It's come on, audience. It's a choice. You choose. And I'm angry. That's PTS. Man, it's PTS because you won't choose. And I know it can help you. I better stop. Sorry. Cut that bit out if you want.
Gosh, yes. Just as a slight aside, I don't think, when you consider that I'm just putting the bullshit out there, as the recruiting office would say, but, I served in an elite force.
Yeah.
On the front line, on active service, when things, quite a lot of things were going bang or whizzing past our ears. I then ended up chronically unwell, Tam, as you know, work in the Wan Chai red light district in Hong Kong, or the nightclub district. It's both.
That's brutal, man. Brutal.
This is actually no big deal, but people make way more of this than I ever have. I ended up as a doorman for the Triads, just because they run the clubs in Hong Kong. It was I didn't have to pass any tests or anything. In fact, I was on the bones of my ass homeless. It was the only job I could get. But I then entered, I was then in clinical psychosis from chronic crystal meth addiction, and literally living in a double world. You talk about like New World Order, global conspiracy. You wait till you're in psychosis. It's a crazy, crazy trip. And cut a long story short, I was doing handstands on top of a skyscraper, on the parapet, looking over the edge, laughing. That's how sort
mental.
of, bad it got. And anyway, the point I'm getting to isn't to talk about my story. It's to say, do you know how many people, I'm not talking podcasts now because I've been on a few podcasts now. Do you know how many acquaintances I've met, family, bezies? Do you know how many people have ever asked me about my life?
It'll be 3 or 4.
No. Sorry, that's disrespect to my friend George.
Okay, yeah. There will be 1 or 2.
George and I went surfing once down to Cornwall, and we went to check the surf, as you do. Then we went back to his car to get the boards and get kitted up. We sat down for a quick cup of coffee in the front of his car. That cup of coffee turned into 4.5 hours of all my traumatic Hong Kong experience just coming out of me, because nobody had ever asked me.
Listen. Right.
No one said, Chris, what happened to you in Hong Kong?
Okay.
What? No one. And this is not, I'm not trying to go anywhere with this, Tam. I'm not saying
you don't have to. I totally understand. Totally understand you, Chris.
Now,
if
I was in the pub with you, Tam, I'd be like, mate, tell me about the Falklands, can you? What was it? What was it like? You're barely a bloody teenager, probably. What's it? What's advanced to contact? What kit? What kit did you take? What kit did you fucking throw away? What do you think of these? The Argentine. Well, I just want to ask you everything, and I just find that interesting that here I am, folks. Ask me anything. You can literally ask me anything. I say this in my live podcast, folks in the chat. Ask me anything. Still to this day, I don't think anyone's ever asked me, what causes addiction.
You see, nobody gives a fuck. Sorry.
Yeah.
And when you realize that, you can go one of 2 ways. You're totally alone, or you're resolved to do something about it. So if you work with using the choice method that I use, then you're already made that decision. You've already gone through unconscious incompetence, and you're at the point where you've made that decision to practice because that's what it's all about. You have to practice not thinking. This is the other side of it. So you've got there and you know what to do. And right, I've got these thoughts. Stop it, stop it, stop it. How do I stop it? Okay, put it in your hand. Put the thought in your hand. Imagine it in your hand. Throw it behind you. Fuck off. Don't need you. Go away. And you keep doing that, 42 days minimum. I'm not like walking down the street, fuck off, fuck off. You get pulled. But the point is, you keep on doing that. Every time you start feeling that, every time you start going down there, just do it. Unless you're a virtue signaler, you won't. And I don't want any virtue signalers near me because I can't do anything because they've already made up their mind that this is useful in their life. And they get some kind of utility out of, oh, look at me, poor me. Whether it's wanting, people to feel sorry for them. What I'm after is the people that are really struggling at one, like you and me. They're just looking for that flame, that light in the darkness, to say, come to me. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a person. It can be an idea, but you move forward. You practice, you practice, you practice. And gradually you close down this big highway. I'll do that. You close down this big highway and you start opening up a little path. You're the guy with the pack on the back. You're the guy that sets up the little village. You're the guy that finds the waterfall. And you're following thoughts of all the other people down the ages coming to see this waterfall. And if you get it right, you will build a new highway to a different life, one full of choice. Take away a lot of your pain. Take away a lot of what's holding you back. Limiting decisions, Chris. We don't even know we've got them. And then I won't go into today, but there's the other side of it. Language. The language people use. Oh, I can't, I won't, I don't. No, it's shutting down your ability to express yourself, shutting down your ability to deal with issues. I'll never be all right. Yeah, it's fucking my way. You know what I mean? I'll never be all
Yeah,
right. Nobody loves me.
language is
Nobody knows. Nobody understands. Hmm?
language is so powerful and
Oh
so
yeah,
misunderstood. It's not even misunderstood, it's not learned.
it's not
And
learned. It's not
I
used properly.
like a couple of my bugbears, I call it New World Order language, the way that
Uh-huh.
the cabal was programmed people to be such
Uh-huh.
fucking sissies now.
Yeah,
It's
don't you?
all part of the agenda. And this word, particularly when it's applied to a veteran, like they can all fuck off, Tam, and it's past.
Yeah.
He you know, when a veteran goes to Valhalla, you get these people, they mean well, they're putting it on their Facebook or whatever, and they're saying, Tam passed. It's like he didn't fucking pass. He fucking hung himself in the garage, or
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was in a
yeah,
fucking full-on
yeah,
car smash, or he died
yeah.
of cancer. Fucking pass. It's such a piss gay word, and it's and that's not what bothers me. It's the way that people just accept
This is my frustration.
they
Yeah, yeah,
accept it without even thinking. Why are you just talking like everyone else does? Why
yeah.
don't you
Well,
just
yeah,
say, do you know what? I'm going to stand apart from the crowd and I'm going to talk the way that I want to. I'll be polite and courteous, but I talk the way that I want. I'm not just going to copy this silly words that's the other one, Tam, from a NLP perspective, especially when you're dealing with the negative self-image that a lot of people that are self-soothing through addiction, the trauma manifests in trying to kill that bad feeling with drugs and alcohol. And it's this word clean.
oh,
It really gets on my
in it,
tits.
in it. Oh, I got clean. No, no, it's in it.
It's like, no, you went through an experience. I rebel against it. That's why, to me, my drug years were like the best years ever. It's the greatest thing that I ever did because I live in paradise, so I must have done everything perfectly to get here, and I wouldn't change where I'm at for anything. For the simple
Me
reason,
too.
when you meet my lad, you'll understand why I've done everything fucking spot on. So when people use this silly word that has just got such negative connotations to it, because the opposite of clean is dirty.
It's dirty.
So we're calling people that are experiencing mental health illness dirty. And the fucking practitioners out there are so thick they can't even understand why that's
right.
not a particularly, professional way of doing things.
A lot of that stems from discourse. Remember, I talked about Foucault and his archaeology. This is where they get their language from. This is where they get their power from. That they are the expert, and therefore we are trained because of school to defer to the expert, defer to teacher, defer to adults. So this is part of our culture, our upbringing. Now, different societies have different ways, but certainly in the West, this seems to be the pattern that most societies have evolved into. So you trust your elders, and your elders tell you what to do, and you learn these patterns, you learn these highways, you learn these beliefs, and you learn these values, and you behave in this way. The minute you step out, now this is where the C word, the courage word comes in. The minute you step out, it becomes a different psychological plane because it's in group and out group. Now, because we're hunter-gatherers by primitive evolution, the hunter-gatherer is based on sharing. The hunter-gatherer is based on collecting together and working together as a team. So therefore, you need everybody thinking along the same level. You don't want somebody going, well, I'm not going up the mountain for goats. I'm going over there for the crocodiles. No. Yeah, there's a plan and there's the way forward. So anybody that steps out becomes out of the group, in groups and out groups. And it takes courage. It takes courage. However, those in the in group are terrified, not always, but mostly terrified that you have broken away from the group, and they will attempt to stop you or get in your way or bar you. And so this is where they will push you away, disenfranchise you, if you like. So you end up with the in-group, which is the common philosophy, the common behavior, the common beliefs and values. You evolve separate ones because of an incident or because of a pathway that you've chosen. I don't want to be a hunter, Dad. I want to be a fisherman. Oh no, we've been hunting for years and years and years, thousands of years, pal. No. You be a fisherman. You be a hunter, not a fisherman. This kind of thing. You're under pressure to behave, and so therefore, you end up in a situation where, if you step outside the group, you get rejected, and that rejection has been one of the ways that the world has moved forward, that the world has progressed technologically to where we are. Because if people didn't get kicked out of the village years and years and years ago because they were disruptive, because we're like me and you, seen something different, want to see the other side of the hill and check about the grass, is it green or not. These are the explorers. These are the man on the track. Yeah, these are the people, men and women, that go out there and make things happen. Because if everybody conformed, well, what are we talking about? Communism. No, you can't have communism because we all think differently. Yeah, but these are the systems that will be imposed. There'd be a rigid, regimented, very much like being a recruit in the army. Jump, how high, sir? Yeah, that kind of thing. So, yes, it's totally natural for one of the in crowd to break ranks and go on their own. Otherwise, the in crowd itself will self implode. And we're seeing that right now with Western civilization. The in crowd, in other words, people that you were talking about, the people that say, oh yeah, you're this and you're that, and label you. These are the intellectual inferiors to the people out there who can see it with their own eyes. Now, you walk into a situation, you're trying to talk to people, and they've all got their beliefs. All right. Oh, this guy's special. He's a combo. Oh, this guy's special. He's got a PhD. We should listen to him. But the minute I turn around and I start telling them something they don't like, they switch off. Because groupthink, because of in-group, because they've been educated, and some would say propagandized, and some say basically self-control. You don't want to step out and be noticed, because people throw eggs at you.
Yes, I just was looking up the term midwit on the other screen there. It's yeah. During the you called it a pan something. I don't give it that. I don't fuel the fire. The massive scam that was perpetuated on society, that only the people that bothered to do any research realised, and now that many people are suffering because of the choices that either they made or their loved ones made. God, during that was a massive psyop that was fueled by midwits and repeaters. And by that, I mean people that all they can do in life is repeat what they see on the news or that their brainwashed education told them.
That's why they call us.
And sorry, I sound like I'm slagging people off. I'm not.
You're not.
Like
I'm on the same level as you on this one, Chris. You know, I'm on the same level. I totally understand where you're coming from.
If we can't have this conversation, then the people out there that want to learn,
They've won.
Can't. They've got nothing to anchor. What, Chris? What the hell are you talking about? Well, so that's that. But another thing is, Tam, do you ever look at? I mean, I know you don't do social media, but because of the nature of my job, I do have social media.
Yeah.
The first thing I'll say is I only have it for work. You know, I've got I've got like a personal Facebook or whatever, because you have to have one to have a business page. But so much to say here. But when I see veterans post stuff, you get this phenomenon.
I know where you're coming from.
You get this phenomenon where it were a guy that you served with back in the day. He was an absolute legend in the unit, in your case in the regiment. He was a big tough guy that, you know, guzzled beer, shag birds, and was full on in a job role. And then suddenly you see them. Well, it's a couple of things. Either they're broken men. I was talking about men now. I serve with men. Well, I serve with a lot of women as well. But in this example, they're men that are they're crying on Facebook because their nana's just died.
Yeah.
And you're like...
I went straight off, Chris. The first one that did that to me, bang, gone.
And I'm like, mate, fucking deal with your trauma. I'm not talking the trauma of your nan dying. I mean the trauma that's driving this need to be loved. You need to like look at what and we're all, you know, I think we're all traumatized, Tam, but we all have that is in us to a bit, but I think I'm just lucky I've had people pull me up when I've been attention seeking.
No, I wouldn't call it luck. I would call it love. Yeah. Self-love. You loved yourself enough to pull out. And people saw that and reinforced their love for you. You see, I'm getting emotional again. Because if it hadn't been for my daughter and my son, if it hadn't been for the love that I had for them, I don't want them to see their father go that way. Fair enough, when they're young, they don't understand. But as they start becoming teenagers, well, my dad's a nutter. Yeah. Don't want that. But so, yeah, you're right.
And the other thing as well, about, you know, I'm talking about social media because that's where you see where people are at. But what the other thing is, the military identity, it's literally all some people have got in their life, even though they're 75, maybe even 80 years of age, and they haven't served for probably 50 years. Every single Facebook post is about when they joined up at Deal Barracks in the 1952, and now I'm not here slagging people, Tam. I'm raising this phenomenon.
Chris, talk freely. I'm well with you.
Yeah,
talk freely. You don't have to explain anything to me.
I'm just raising this phenomenon where, I mean, a paratrooper once said, former para once said, I saw him getting interviewed on some podcast or some news thing anyway, and he was talking about me, and he said, you know what, I used to identify as a paratrooper. It's like all I was, it was in me. I thought I was a
Mm.
para even though I'd left, I still thought I was a para for the rest of my life. He said, and then someone I have got a lot of respect for, said, I don't identify, in my case, as a Royal Marine. I identify by what the fuck I'm doing today and how good a father I am. And am I still trying to get, all my bad behaviours in tow? And am I trying to put food on the table? And da-da-da-da-da-da. I will say, for the purposes of this conversation, it is confusing with me because I do a lot in the veterans community. I like to highlight trauma. All my charity work tends to be to highlight the veterans trauma and the suicide epidemic and this kind of thing. In the past, if it meant getting people's attention, I'd shove my green beret on, just because I know that video,
Credibility gap.
video will get 30,000 views, whereas if I just put this on, or my bald head, it will get like 500 views. And so what is the thing? Why do so many veterans come across as really damaged cookies, Tam?
Because especially you don't get it so much in the other regiments, but in ours and above and around, you get it a lot because we're exposed to the sharp end a lot more. But it's I did 64 interviews. By the way, I'd like to talk to you about that later. Maybe not as part of this, but about an archive that I'm building. I've got my my PhD interviews, voices. It's a project I've got going. Anyway, what was I saying? Shit, what have I done?
We're talking
I
about
think.
trauma in service, but the thing I'm more
Right,
keen
yeah.
to talk about, to be honest, is childhood trauma.
Yeah,
I
okay,
don't
sure.
think you joined the Paras or the Royal Marines because you had it easy as a kid.
You read my PhD, and this comes out very clear as one of the findings that most of us are from broken homes. And I actually say in my PhD, and this is 20 odd years ago, I can confidently say the same for the Royal Marines. Okay, we come from broken homes, the vast majority of us. Childhood trauma is very, very significant. We find a family, and the army knows that. And your corporal becomes your father, and your sergeant becomes your grandfather, and so on. And your officers become annoying uncles, and so on and so on and so on. But that brotherhood, I know brothers because I've got four sisters. When I joined the army, yeah, I thought I was late being losing my virginity at 14. I thought I was late. And then when I joined the army, I realized that most of them were still virgins and they're 19, 20-year old. And it's bullshit. So you got that kind of it's got a lot to do with what I mentioned to you when we initially contacted, is identity and culture and indoctrination and self-reinforcing and discipline and narratives. And so you go into an environment like that, even if it's just the 3 years, you do all that selection to get and test to get through. Then you do it. You're in the cult. You're in the club. Then you leave. Life is, for many of them, it's empty because you've lived a high octane. You'll never be able. The drinking sessions. You had Spuddy on, man. Oh, Spud that night. He's throwing the tiles off. I was standing watching him, and I was a regimental policeman. Get down, fuck off. Yeah, but it's things like that. And of course, when you had Spud on, I was totally alive. Boom! Like, oh man, watching how he changed and all that. But the point is, when you're in, it's a brotherhood, it's a family, and you can hear it in many of my tapes of my interviews for my PhD. Was one of the questions I asked towards the end is, why did you leave the regiment? That's if they'd left. I got a lot of serving soldiers, and a lot of stories are tears. Me too. I was conscious. I left for a reason, a major reason, um, and it wasn't the Falklands. It had to do with the way I'd been treated. But when I did, I cried and I cried and I cried because I knew something powerful had got my life. And I've been a paratrooper all my life, but I've never let it dominate and subsume me as to who I am. I've used it as a strength. Like, for example, when I was doing my PhD interview to get on the program, one of the interviewees brought up my paratrooper background and said that people like me were not the type of person that became academics. We were disruptive and threatening and things like that. Now, this was a woman, obviously. You know the type of DEI that we got now. Yeah, and bugger me, did the dean not step in and say, "No, I'm going to give him a chance"? That's because the dean was a submariner when he was young, and you know about submariners? They're the elites, yeah. And so therefore he understood everything and he wanted my story. So he overruled everybody. But people in that university kept away from me because of my background. And that's the reputation. So having to hide it. And then when it comes out, yeah, you see, typical. That's what I didn't like, the typical label, because it might not have been that brought it out. It's something else. But because you've got that label, because you've got it all surrounding about you, people point and say, hey, look, there's evidence. It's kind of like the opposite of virtue signaling. No, I don't run around virtue signaling. I don't go to reunions anymore because I want to remember them as they were. Like you said, I don't want to see them maybe sitting in a pint in a reunion and somebody's telling me about his mother dying. I don't want to go tell them about my mother, the state she's in. It's personal. But yeah, and as I say, it's unsettling when that happens. But again, it's all because of the power of the indoctrination and the experience. And again, it's the opposite of post-traumatic stress. It's post-elation stress, which exists in the space in their head. You will never, ever be that person again. Strong, powerful, determined. Oh, come on, was it Montgomery says about us, and I love using it. Every man an emperor. And we were, Chris. We were emperors, all of us. No, when I talk about us, I'm talking about all the Marines, everybody, even the airborne, yeah. 29 Karuna battery. Oh, yeah, man. Working with these guys occasionally and everything. You find same mentality. But what do we do? Cherry berry, cabbage hat. But when it gets down to it, Corporal Millie, yeah, my baptism of fire in the Falklands. I mean, I'd had it before in Northern Ireland, but he was sitting next to me. We were sitting in a rock, cart rock, and the shit came over and D Company hit them. And I turned. The RSM was here because I was his body. Well, not his body. I was his buddy, like the regimental police. Guy sitting next to me. I didn't know who the hell he was. Flash, phosphorus. So we're both lying, looking at the sky. After that, lying for. Who are you? And he says, I can't remember. Honestly, not a clue who he was then. So I wouldn't have remembered his name, but he told me he was Corporal Mealy and he was the forward fire control for the battalion HQ, and that's why he was there. He died in Green, fighting with A Company, fighting with Chuck Hardman in his section. And I always used to think, what would happen if it was me? Yeah, I would have done the same. I would have done the same because that respect and that understanding. That wouldn't have mattered if he hadn't been a Marine or he was SAS or he was just a bucksy airman. The guy fought and died. And I can't step back. And of course, years later, when I was doing my research, I found out who he was, and his one of his family got in touch with me, and I was able to tell them and give them some kind of closure, because no closure. He just died with two para. There was nobody around to witness his death from his own unit.
Tam, fascinating. I'd love to talk to you just about your Falklands experience. We'll have to have another chat, but I'm highlighting this stuff not because, I'm sorry if I keep repeating myself. I don't want to come across as disrespectful to any veteran.
You can't, not to me.
One of the proudest things in my life, well, the proudest thing in my life, and this will be forever, far more proud than even when I become a father to the biggest little legend that's on this planet at the moment, right? It was being accepted into the Marines after doing the 3-day, entrance course.
Oh, the pre-selection, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't want no one taking this the wrong way. And that meant a lot to someone who come from a severely broken home, been told he was a failure at everything, who'd grown up watching films like Officer and a Gentleman, and who'd hung in there at that hardest moment on that course. And I would not give up. You can kick me out, but I'm not not giving up. So I'm as proud as the next person to have done that. That's not my issue. My issue is when I see people clinging to this identity. I'm not talking about people that are just like, fucking hell, Town, we had a great time when we served, and at that time we done that in Manila, and that time at so-and-so, and what happened to Smudge in Belfast. I'm not talking about that. We could all look back with fondness and also, take the piss and also talk about when it was really shit. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you see it's people's trauma response is to cling to that identity and to stay in that mindset of like 30, 40 years ago, and to not have moved on in their life whatsoever, because the trauma, the identity, the ego is so locked into, I was so good when I was 18, I got a funny coloured hat and didn't, you've all got to tell me I did well. And you see that, and again, not a criticism of the person. I'm talking about, isn't it sad to see when trauma manifests itself in the ego identity? And
highways in your mind, Chris. Back to highways in your mind. That's it. Remember what I said right at the beginning? That flashbang, whatever it is, or slow fizz, but that point of realization. That's it. And the highway springs from there, and it gets fed, and it grows, and it grows, and it grows. Virtue signaling that I was in. I don't do that. I love it. It's just a great feeling. Put your berry on again. Sometimes I'm crazy enough. I'll stand and do it and put in the mirror and look and go, yeah. And I get strength from it. But that's private. My daughter's seen it. She loves it. Go on, Dad. She tells me, put your berry on, because she sees what happens to me. So yeah. Their lives since have been empty because of that experience of what you go through. And then you end up out of the regiment. And as I said in my PhD, I got so many stories of heartbreak, sitting outside the barrack gate. One guy got 10 meters, I think it was that, outside Brunable Barracks. And he's just sat there and he cried and he cried and he cried and he cried. Because you're leaving something. And so, yeah, I met right after the Falklands when I was back in Edinburgh. I met an old guy. He was 88 years old, full head of hair, big fucking moustache, big man, guardsman. He'd been a sergeant major in the guards. And for the last 40 odd years, he would go up every day to Edinburgh Castle or to Dreghorn Barracks every single day. Couldn't let it go. We used to call him Army Barmy, institutionalized. Prison officers. I'm talking about when I was a kid. I think I'm 10 years older than you or something. But when I was a kid, you'd see them, still acting as if they're in the army. Things were regimented. Look at the NHS. It's sad now, but it used to work because it was regimented. The matron was the boss. You didn't cross her. There was discipline. There was a rank structure. Nowadays, it's just not the same. So, yeah, I can understand people wanting to live in the past, but it's a highway that takes them back there, and they've got nothing to replace it.
But there's another thing in this that we haven't factored in yet, and it's just as important as everything else we've discussed, is the cognitive dissonance between the role that blokes think they played and the fucking real role that basically you as the strong arm for the bankers. They've decided every single war since Napoleon, fact, possible, there's a few fracas along the way that sort of emerged, and maybe the Falklands was one, although,
definitely we've had oil.
We've had people on the show that say, no, Chris, there's no such thing as the Falkland Islands. There's the Falkland Island Company, and that there was a peace deal on the table, brokered through some obscure country. The signal was sent, and Thatcher's government conveniently lost the peace deal the ceasefire deal that had come to London. And again, I'm not here. This is the insanity and the huge contradiction of all of this is, I'm so fucking proud of the people that served in the Falklands. Many of whom I've had the pleasure to meet and I served with, family of like my best friend, my old business partner, I'll just call him H. He said, Chris, in the Falklands, he said, when we lined up beneath them hills, he said, when we left the start line, he said there was a huge long line on the ground of battle bowlers, helmets. He said where the Marines had just fucking taken their helmet, thrown it to one side and put their green berets on. Yeah. Fucking makes me almost cry just thinking about it.
It makes me cry. Not almost. It makes me, because I did it.
Yeah. And then he said, he said we fought up them hills. He said when we got back to Arbroath, he was 4-5, he said we got weapons training. He said we had to go to a weapons stance and stand there. He said, he said the corporal, Smudge, is like, oh, for fuck's sake, fellas, come on, we've got to do this.
Some effort in, yeah.
We've got to do this. Just put some effort. And they were like, fuck off, Smudge. You know what it was like down there. And he said, what it was really like, none of this, safety catch, change lever, check your top round, fit magazine to the weapon, working pot, whatever the drill was, right? He said down there it was fucking blat off your rounds as fast as you fucking could. Get the empty magazine, chuck, none of this like stow it away in your pooch. We call them pooches for some reason. Stow it away in your pouch, Take your next, he said, it was like, throw that fucker as far as you can, get the next on, fucking cock it, and it just makes me proud to have him as a mate, and he's still, he got to almost 60 years old before they diagnosed his trauma, and of course he's only getting you was in the Falklands, so you've got. They haven't gone into his childhood and the discrepancies he probably had with his father all these.
Now you're zooming in, Chris. Now you're zooming in the fundamental problem. It's the psychiatrists and the psychologists that hold the discourse on what should be post-traumatic stress disorder. And we, the sufferers, are not allowed to challenge it because they know better. This is because they're educated, because they've studied at university, and you're just a pleb that's freaked out and fucked up. And these people think that they've got a moral and intellectual authority over you. Now, I don't know about the Marines, but I'm pretty suspect you were the same. The vast majority of these traumatized boys were switched on and clever. Because to me, you could not be clever. You could not be really stupid and dumb, although there was some. That you could not be stupid and dumb and fight and operate, even on exercise at that kind of level. So I also noticed it because I realize I'm a lot more perceptive than the normal person. But when you get a guy come up to you, and we call them hairy arse paratroopers. I don't know what you do in the Marines, but a big hairy arse paratrooper coming to you, isolating you, sitting you down, saying, Tam, can you read this letter to me? Well, I'm fucking crying. The boy could hardly read and write. What a soldier. Perception. He just hadn't been educated, And watching this guy melting as he's talking about his dog dying and his mother's written to him and his dog died. This guy, haven't put your arm around him. Not even a mate, just somebody that came because he could trust me. That is the essence. That's a brotherhood. That's a family. And of course, when the shit hits the fan and you all rise up together, wow. I never forget coming down out of the Sussex Mountains. I know it's not about the Falklands, but one police. And there's a line, battalion snake in the distance. Beautiful evening, Chris. It was crystal clear, full moon, frost. You could see a good mile and a half, 2 miles. And I was probably about 2/3 of the way into the battalion, so maybe a third behind me, 2/3 ahead. The snake. And I remember thinking, down from the glen come the fighting men with their guns and their grenades. And I thought, we're going to this. I just realized the power that 500 of us had coming down this mountain to go and fight. Powerful, powerful stuff. So yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just like, but I go back to these moments, you can't feel any better than that. I knew we were on our way to make history. And like a lot will tell you, I felt nothing was going to happen to me. I wasn't going to get hit. Yeah. And then you realize when you get out of it, your mates are telling you, fucking hell, Tom, whoa, what? Take that, take your helmet off, and a big fucking lump of shrapnel in it. I never felt it. So it's kind of like, the other side of the wall. It's out of reach. That's how I felt. But then, when you get back and you realize and you calm down, you realize, well, shit, I could have died there. I did say goodbye to my mother once. I really, really faced it, and I've told her that. But these are the things. So yeah, a lot of drivers in my life from the experience, um, realizing that I wasn't alone and realizing that society wasn't going to help me. I had to find my own way. And it took me 15 years before I got that trigger in that shopping centre. It was in Nottingham, Victoria Centre, these old people. That was the moment when I realized I didn't love anybody apart from my kids. I didn't have a relationship. I was pushing everybody away, not consciously. I wanted them, please love me. Yeah. But who's going to love a nutcase who's running about screaming airborne at every fucker? No, I'm serious, yeah. My point, you understand where I'm coming from. So, yeah, it's been a long journey, but it's my own proof. I know it works, and I can offer other people the same opportunity to experience, I said the relief from their highways, closing down their highways. So on that note, yeah, fine.
I think for me, it's all part of the same package. Life is a holistic thing. And to understand your own trauma, your addictions and your coping behaviors and your bad behavior, and to be a good parent and to be able to interact, in this case, on a podcast. And it's for me, it's all about one thing, and it's truth in life and truth to yourself. When I left the military, I walked out that gate, Tam. I fucking never looked back. And do you know who walked out before me and never looked back? My cousin, and he was a colonel. Right?
Really?
Yeah, my second cousin Dave joined as a boy soldier, got the King's badge in recruit training, got commission. Back then, always in the Marines, you get commission, you have to go back through training again. And it's even harder for the officers, training,
yeah,
harder and longer. And I'll never forget my old man saying to me, they carried him out the barracks on a gun carriage. So all the, like all the marching up and down the square stuff. And my dad went, you know what? He didn't even fucking look back. What my dad was saying was he understood it for what it was. He saw the bureaucracy, the crap, the fucking lack of funding, and for me, I got to be careful what we say here, Tam, but I looked at those events in New York and Washington 20 years ago, the one where structures just miraculously descended from the sky.
Yeah.
Several
the most paranoid nation in the world with the most sophisticated air defense and surveillance allowed that to happen.
Yeah. And the symbology, like if you don't understand numerology, you won't understand that 11 is highly significant, significant,
The 11th day of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month.
11, and
chosen.
Incidentally, if anyone's out there was wondering why, it's the pyramid number. Pyramid, folks, that should give you a clue. It's the pyramid number because it's I won't go into it now, but it's about reprogramming human consciousness experiences with dark energy, basically.
Yeah.
But I looked at that, and off the back of that, what a lot of youngsters don't realise, and a lot of people that served in the Middle East, is off the back of that event, we went into Afghanistan, not Iraq, Afghanistan,
Afghanistan.
because the official narrative was that there were training camps of a certain type of rebel, you can say. I don't like to say the T word because we get flagged for it, but you know, that they were training these T's in Afghanistan to come, and there was going to cause atrocity in the West. And, you know, no mention of the lithium mines in that part of the world, no. or you know, regime change and all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, we had the Iraq fiasco, which was too obvious to fucking...
Wasn't
it? To you know, even your Daily Mail or your Sun reader even now has to admit, right, yeah, that was a dodgy dossier, wasn't it? And so all about truth, all about being true to yourself. What am I saying here, Tam? It's
while you're thinking, on the 20th anniversary of the Falklands, we stayed in oil workers' accommodation, and there was a freaking rig out in the bay. Falklands, oil workers, rig, same thing.
Yeah. I just think to be a true warrior, you've got to walk that honest pathway, and you've got to see things for, you know, for what they are. When I walked out the barracks for the last time, I fucking looked back. It was great experience in part, loads of shit times, loads of shit people. Probably a lot of people thought that of me at times. That's fine, but I wasn't brainwashed, and I wasn't indoctrinated, and I always stuck up for me mates. You know, I remember being guard commander, or 2IC of the guard, because I was Lance Corporal, and one of the lads hadn't turned up because he'd been on the razzle all night, and I kind of slipped away, legged it up to his room, or grot as we called them, give him a shake. I'm like, oi, Andy, get your fucking ass. You know, that was like unheard of. You never didn't turn up. You know, you know yourself. That was like,
yeah,
you know,
taboo.
And he just, the fear in his eyes, and he come running down to the guard room, looking like a bag of shit where he just thrown his rig on. And as he came in, he still had his nose ring, his nose piercing in from being raving all night. And I was like, he's like, and mate, I turned around, I fucking laughed at it. Do you know what I mean? It's the guys come first, is what I'm trying to say. And there were some people that we worked with, they would have just blown that whole fucking thing out of proportion, as though we was all angels or something. And yeah, Tam, sorry, I don't know where I'm going with this. I just think, you know, I just think we got to be honest about what role does the military really play. And
well, I'm of the opinion now that it's kinetic warfare is becoming a thing of the past. That we are evolving into special operatives rather than infantry regiments. We're going to be moving away from artillery and all these weapons of war into economics, into electronics, into basically the information. So who controls the information? And we see this every single day. Pandemic, you call it that, yes, scamdemic. Day one, I was in Malaysia. I lived in Malaysia for 20 years. I'm watching this, and the first thing that happened was I'm watching all these people falling in the street. Now, for me, my wife is Korean, and I just turned around to her and I said, "It's fake. It's a video. It's fake. It's not real." But she wasn't having it. And from that point on, you know, we've had this problem because I could see exactly what was going on. These people were actors falling in the street. So it was, and my background as an academic is psychology, behavioral psychology. And so I could see exactly what was going on. I seen it as propaganda. And then the other one was we were being shown films in Malaysia of these hospitals and ambulances with the flashing lights and all that. So I said to her, let's go down to Sunway Medical Centre and let's have a look at this. There was nobody there. There were no ambulances there. And yet everybody on TV is watching all these ambulances and people, yeah, and bodies stacking up and all that, and it's not happening in real life. And the other one, of course, is the TikTok shit. All these nurses, singing and dancing, all these fucking narcissists singing and dancing in the hospitals, yeah, that are supposed to be full of people dying. So yeah, the whole thing was a psyop right
This
from the very beginning.
this goes back to the thing I was saying about language and adopting sissy language just because your mate starts saying something. You haven't got the wherewithal within yourself not to try and copy that, right? I put I put a post on my social media of those nurses dancing, and I just put one word up with really, the utter fucking lunacy that we've got so desperate for attention that during a so-called national crisis, when people are allegedly dying in their thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, that these fucking idiot nurses don't realise the inappropriateness of not only using all the PPE gear that we paid for to dress up, but to do these stupid fucking dances, as if they're on a bloody TV program. And the reaction to me posting that was
I can imagine.
Matrix programming or what? It was like these nurses could do no wrong in so many so many people's eyes, particularly veterans' eyes. They were just utterly harmless, and this is perfectly acceptable behaviour to do during a fake fucking crisis.
Yeah. The other side of it was bang a pan. All these idiots standing in the street. I was fucking laughing. That's psychology 101. I was laughing at it, pissing myself laughing at these people. And like, how? And then I didn't say, how stupid can you be? I just understood, as you're saying, the programming from childhood to accept it.
Yeah.
My mother watches the BBC faithfully because it served her well during the war when she was a child, the Second World War I'm talking about, and it served her. But she's never realised that it's nothing but, and always has been, propaganda. Same as every newspaper. They're all propaganda. Now it's all moved from the newspapers, it's moved from TV, and it's now moving on to the internet. You don't know who to trust anymore. You don't know who's having an honest conversation. You don't know who's monitoring your website or what you're saying. I don't go on social media because I'd be in jail by now. Simple. Sometimes I just can't hold back.
Yeah, I try to focus my attention by doing it through the podcast and my life coaching videos now. It's like I don't give uneducated, non-thinking people the ammunition to then come back at me with shit they don't understand. And then I haven't got the time to explain how the human biology works, that there's no such thing as bogeymen that can fucking jump from one person into another. It's a fucking fallacy. It's a fallacy that your parents put on you because the big club that control the pharmaceutical industry selected that narrative because it sets you up as the victim. There's nothing I can do about my health, so there's no point keeping fit and eating vegetables because Tam can come in my house and fucking kill me. So, Tam, it's your fault, mate. I shouldn't, you shouldn't have fucking... And it's once you see it, you can't fucking unsee it. And then you realise that these measures that they've put in place, which were thrust on us as squaddies, mate, weren't they? Fucking hell. Bloody guinea pigs or what? Then you realise if you haven't got a thing in the first place, then you haven't got a preventative for it because that thing don't exist. Then you realise the magnitude of this deception, this absolute magnitude. But to understand that, you've got to go into the AIDS crisis. You've got to see who was behind it. What were these groups? What what linked people in sub-Saharan Africa? If I say Bill Gates, folks, you might,
Hey, come on,
you know,
Chris. It was the green monkeys in the Congo. That's what we were talking. Aye.
what linked
Yeah.
people in Africa with high-risk groups in the UK, intravenous needle sharers, would have all have gone to their GP, and their GP would have said, oh, you're in a high-risk group, you need to have this thing. And then the gayers with their all-night partying and their poppers and their sniff and their, frolicking, shall we say, and burning the candle at both ends, when what their doctor would have gone, well, you definitely need to have a certain procedure because you're in a high-risk group as well. And of course, when these people in these high-risk groups come down with pneumonia, which is what we're talking about, which is like a breakdown of the biology of the breathing system. Old Dr. Fauci comes up because, yes, he was the AIDS man. He's got this special test already prepared. And guess what? The test tells them what they want it to. And, Tam, listen, this has been absolutely brilliant conversation. Thank you for being patient and letting me get my shit out, because that's why I had a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here like a fucking monkey. Do you know what I mean? This is
Well, I don't, Chris. I don't, and I'll be in touch with you again once I get my website up and running, and I've got all my results for people come in and have a look.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll let you know about that.
So just before we say goodbye to our brothers and sisters out there who might be struggling, whether they be civilian or military, are we agreed, Tam? Leave the past behind because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Be grateful for today, because a lot of our comrades, can we say comrades? Oppos, we say in the Marines.
Oppos,
in
Paris too.
A lot of our oppos are no longer here, and they died in horrible circumstances, sometimes in sacrificing their own life for others. They would love to be here having this experience. And if you said to them, oi, fuck lugs, to live here and have this experience, you got to leave all that trauma shit in the past. Yeah? Deal?
Yeah.
They would fucking bite your arm off, wouldn't they, Tam? They would bite your arm off to be here now, having a pint with their buddies in the pub, and then going back to the families who love them. So leave the past behind, live in the present, be grateful. And as for the identity, I would think it's much healthier to identify as a massive legend, which is what the universe...
I love you.
That's what the universe dictated Tam to be, for me to be, and everybody watching. It's more helpful to identify as that than it is to an identity that you took on when you was a teenager, which could be 30, 40, even 50 years ago. And
well, from my perspective, thank you for the opportunity to work with somebody who is thinking like me, and I'm thinking like you. So continue, Chris.
Absolutely.
Just keep on doing it.
Is your book still available, Doctor, on the 8th day?
It's on Amazon Kindle.
Yeah. Okay.
I've got another novel that's I'm ready to put up there. That's called Dead Man's Click, but that's just fiction. It's a pretty good one, actually. But I'm more interested in what I call mind mechanics, which is I've been talking about highways and minds. And so I've got a 500-page book sitting on my laptop that the university press wouldn't publish because it was which they don't want anybody to understand and know, because it as I say, I'm using it as a tool, and I've got myself out of the mess I was in, and I can offer that kind of opportunity for other people. But that's an aside. As I say, I'm grateful for your opportunities, and thank you very much.
Thank you, and let's make this the first of many chats, because a lot of people struggling out there. They need some guy. It always helps to. The answers come from within. But it doesn't hurt to hear someone else saying what your mind has started to think for itself. So yes, Tam, massive thank you. Big respect to all our paras and our Marines out there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And friends at home, hope you've enjoyed this chat and got something out of it. If you could like and subscribe, that would be awesome. And if you like my content and my philosophy and my life coaching, if you could support us on Patreon, folks, for $1.99 a month, or you can go to Locals. Locals is free, but you can also support me there if you so wish. Locals is our uncensored content. So all the content where I'm talking in code here to Tam, because we're not, because freedom of speech is under question. On Locals, we can just, I can just do proper videos, you could say. So if you can support us for $1.99 a month, folks, it just helps me to do this work. Brilliant. Great. Tam, thanks once again. Massive love to everyone. Cheers.
Keep on keeping on, Chris. Bless you.